I have started this, first introduce the Buddha, then introduce his teaching, then introduce how to practice Buddhism, then talk about karma, then rebirth, then heaven and hell. Now today I explain in general how people practice Buddhism all over the world. A very simple topic. The whole Buddhist world we can divide into 3 groups. One group pay more attention only towards rites and rituals and ceremonies and worshipping and praying and offerings. Throughout their life, they perform all those activities thinking that they are practicing Buddhism. They don't want to go beyond that. Majority here in this world, in every country, devote their more time for rites, ritual, ceremonies, worshipping, praying, offering, chanting. But people need something for them to experience within this lifetime, not only after death. We have to consider this very carefully, because people like to have healthy life, people like to have peace, people must know how to get rid of their fear and insecurity. They must know how to gain confidence to avoid external evil forces. Therefore, religion must be ready to contribute something for them. Simply by saying, after your death, you will be born in a very pleasant, peaceful, prosperous place, and one day you will be able to attain nirvana, is not enough. Majority of them expect something from religion for them to experience while they are living here. Of course, there are duties, responsibilities, obligations for us to fulfill towards husbands and wife and parents and children and family members and the relatives and the friends and the country and the nations and the government. Buddha has mentioned all these things. These are our duties and responsibilities. But beside those duties and responsibilities, to get rid of fear, all of us have fear. One day I have mentioned why we have more fear in our mind. Every minute we are spending our mental energy through the 5 senses: eyes, ear, nose, mouth, body. 5 senses. These organs doesn't work without mind. Therefore, these organs extract the mental energy and to see something, to hear something, to smell something, taste something, feeling, all this. Then imagination. 6. These 6 channels are spent mental energy every minute. So the mind becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. If we can practice something, at least for a short period, to stop all these channels, all the 6 channels close, then mind is alone. Then the mind get the chance to relax and relax and relax. Otherwise, mind always get anger and fear and worry and suspicions and temptations and all those things pollute the mind, waste mental energy. So when you stop all these things, then the mind get the chance to relax. By relaxing and relaxing and relaxing, later we can get back the lost energy to activate, strengthen. When the mind is strengthened, then we gain more courage. And fear slowly reduce from our mind. Suspicions also slowly reduce. Because the mind is strong enough to know, to face. At the moment, mind is not strong enough. Therefore, fear is there. Small children, they are scared of so many things because their minds are very, very weak. They cannot understand things. So, rite and rituals. Having seen what people are doing in the name of religion, the Buddha wanted to point out many of those rites and rituals that they perform, they cannot create either good merit or they cannot do any service to others. Example, praying and worshipping. Many people spend their time only for praying, only for worshipping. They do that by expecting something, not to do anything to anybody, any service. You know, there were 3 million gods in India when the Buddha appeared. So people have been worshipping, praying whole day and night because of those gods. But when the Buddha appeared, I think majority disappear automatically. Because these are imagination created by the human mind. Rain is God, sun is God, moon is God, energy is thunder and lightning God, food is God, earth is God. Then start to worship and worship and worship, no end. So the Buddha wanted to point out there is no religious value in those practices to reduce many of those rites and rituals. Then some others started to torture their body, poking, burning, cutting, starving, without sleeping, without taking medicine when they are sick, thinking that they can get rid of all the bad karma that they have committed. Then the Buddha said, by torturing your body, you cannot get rid of your bad karma, because the body is not responsible for the bad thing that you have committed. The mind used the body as a weapon. Body doesn't know anything. So, if you want to punish, you have to punish your mind, not the body. Then he taught how to punish the mind. When you get angry, you must have courage to control, suppress this anger, punishment, the mind. When you are jealous, you must have courage to reduce. What do I gain by developing this jealousy? For what purpose I develop this jealousy? Reduce. That is the punishment for the mind. When you are stingy, selfish, try to change this attitude to be generous, to contribute something for the well-being of others. That is punishment for the mind. This is the way, practical way, the Buddha has introduced a religious value. Then offering flowers and candles or light or joysticks are not under rite and rituals. Because some people say these things are also ritual. No. When we analyze and explain, they are not under rite and rituals, under the devotional aspect. Now when we offer light, we recite something. Ghanasarappa diptena deepena tamadansina tiloka deepang sambuddhang pujayami tamonudang. I offer this light in the name of the Buddha, who has illuminated the whole world with his enlightenment. So I offer this light to dispel the darkness and gain brightness. It is not right, it is meditation. It is a very good meditation. So when you offer flowers, we say, Pujemi buddhang kusumena nena punyena metena chahotu mokkan uppang milayati yatha idamme kayo tathayati vinasabhavam. The flowers that I offer, so beautiful, lovely and nice fragrance, everybody like. But this beauty will fade away very soon, 1 or 2 days time. Our body, we think now very pretty, very handsome, very good complexions, nice features, but how long can we maintain all these qualities? Exactly like this flower, our body also slowly fade away. It is a meditation. Therefore no one can say they are under rite and ritual. So we pay respect. Actually we do not worship. Worshipping is a different word. Others worship and pray. We do not worship, we do not pray. What we do? We pay homage. We pay respect. We never ask anything from the Buddha. When we pay homage, pay respect, but in appreciation of the great achievement of enlightenment, the holiness, the purity, sacredness, supreme wisdom, we honor, we respect in appreciation. Now it is not begging or praying or asking something from the Buddha. In appreciation of his great qualities, I pay my homage. By doing that, in return, we get the blessing. We never ask, but we get the blessing. We gain some sort of inspiration in our mind. And at that time that is spent, we try to guard our mind by concentrating on the great qualities, virtues of the Buddha. This is the real meaning of paying homage to the Buddha. It is meritorious. Then we do some chanting by using the same language used by the Buddha. Because these are the words came out from the Buddha's mouth. It is mentioned the Buddha was the only human beings who lived on this earth who never uttered a lie. Not only within this life, even during the previous birth also, he has violated certain other precepts. But this particular precept, under any circumstances, he did not violate. He was willing to sacrifice the whole life for the sake of this principle. Not to tell lie is his principle. So these words come out from the mouth, such holy, sacred mouth of the Buddha. These words are very powerful. That is why we don't use another language when we are going to do some blessing. Two things are very important for that. When I am going to do some chanting for you, I had to radiate my compassion, sympathy, kindness towards you for your well-being. So my mental energy and the sound vibration both are focusing toward you. Then you had to attune your mind to receive, just like a receiving set, catch the wavelength by developing devotion, confidence, faith. You had to pay attention without allowing any other external forces to come and disturb your mind. Now the communication, harmony, mental harmony and sound vibration absorb. You can see the magnet, the gravity, and all these energies we cannot see, but they do work. So exactly in the same way, mental energy is more stronger than all the other energies in this world. So 48 years in this country, my experience, how many thousands of our devotees were affected, could manage to get rid of their sicknesses, their worry, their problem, their misfortune through this chanting, blessing. I can give an example. There is a house in Maxwell Road, very big house, belonged to a Christian doctor. But they had difficulty at night. No one would sleep in that house. All night they're going banging doors and windows and running here and there. No one can understand what is happening. They have done everything according to their religion. Did not work. Then somebody has, why not to go to a Buddhist temple and ask a Buddhist monk to come and do some blessing? He said, never mind. He came to see me and explain what is happening. I went there. I recited Ratana Sutta. It's a very powerful sutra. The Buddha recited this particular sutra when India, northern India, one part of the India having famines and epidemics and thousands of people are dying. At that time the Buddha visited and recited this and asked Ananda to sprinkle the holy water, and people could manage to get rid of their misfortune. That particular sutra I recited 7 times. There is some sort of mystical power that I cannot explain, nobody knows. 7, 21, 108. Some people recite 7 times, some people 21 times, some others 108 times. Some sort of mystical power, but we cannot explain. So I recited this 7 times and sprinkled the water inside the house. Came back. Next day morning, they came and running and asked, what did you do last night? Then I went, you know what happened last night? Inside the house is completely quiet, silent. But around the house, the disturbances are so great, our neighbors also complain. Then he asked, what did you do? They asked. Then I said, don't worry, things are working. Then second day, I carried some sand and recited 21 times Ratana Sutta. And I had to bury the four corners of the house outside. Bury this sand that I chanted. Came back. For 1 week, no news. That is why people say no news means good news. After 1 week, the motor car came and stopped in front of my office, and two of them got down with orange and apples and grapes. I knew good news. Then they came and told me it's completely silent. No disturbances at all. Then they told me, one who built this house died here in the same house. His mother also died in the same house. Do you know, according to the Buddha, if anybody died while having a strong attachment towards a house or lands or persons or anything, that person's life becomes very miserable. Many of them will be born as a spirit. They don't go away. They are jealous. Always disturb others. But cannot see anything. They are spirit. So, you can understand, they are not Buddhists. They were Christian. But how they were benefited. Still we meet them occasionally, they say no more disturbances. The power of the Buddha words. 1975, I went to England. The Secretary General of the Polytech Society. Polytech Society means the society that they have formed to translate Pali Tripitaka into English language. First time, more than 100 years ago. Person, Dr. Rhys David, he was the British government agent in Sri Lanka. Yeah, he heard people are talking a lot about Buddhism. He is a son of a Christian priest. So he wanted to study this religion to find out the weaknesses and loopholes. So no English book at that time. He wanted to study Pali language, to read the Tripitaka. There was only one monk in the whole country, in Sri Lanka at that time, who studied English. Only one monk. He went to see him, studied under him. He's a very intelligent man. He mastered the language. His wife also joined with him, both of them. When they have returned to England, more than 100 years ago, they have formed that society called Polytech Society, still functioning, still translating Pali Tripitaka into English language. So the secretary of that society in 1975, he was very sick. He invited us to go and do some chanting and blessing. When we visited his house, it is very hard for him to talk, very weak. Even then, he requested us to recite certain sutras, because he knows everything. Bojjhanga Sutras. In Paritta chanting book, you can see there are 7 sutras, Bojjhanga Sutras. Asked to recite. So while we were reciting, he was listening paying attention very carefully. Do you know European Buddhists are not like Asian Buddhists. They have no devotion. They do not worship. They do not offer flowers and candles and joysticks, but they want intellectual side. They want to talk and discuss to know, enrich their knowledge, and meditation also. That's all. But this particular person, he had a lot of devotion. So, after listening our chanting, so when you stop, he got up and sat down and told, actually for a long time, I never had such a relief. So, I never thought that I will be able to get up and sit down. Then, at that time, they were building London Buddhist Vihara, collecting donation. He asked somebody to bring his checkbook and asked somebody to write, and he put his signature, 10,000 pounds. He donated to London Buddhist Vihara. An immediate result, the effect. Because he knows every word what we recite, meaning, and he has devotions and confidence. We also recited with compassion and sympathy and kindness towards him. So, the words that we uttered all are very meaningful words, the Buddha word. They are not like mantra. Mantra have no meaning at all. We don't do a certain thing, churu churu, churu churu, churu, no meaning at all. But the word uttered by the Buddha, every word explained noble idea. Again, the word came out from such sacred mouth. It is mentioned, Tittante nibbute chapi same chitte samanpala. Whether the Buddha is alive or not, those devotees who have confidence and devotions and understanding experience the same good result. Whether the Buddha is living or not makes no difference. Another thing, the Buddha cannot die. The Buddha never died. Buddha is not this physical body. Buddha is Buddhahood, enlightenment. That Buddhahood cannot die. This physical body disappears, but the Buddha exists. That is why the Buddha says, whether the Buddha is alive or not, if the devotees develop their devotions and confidence, they will be benefited. They can create a lot of merit, good karma also. Again, Mahayana schools of Buddhism introduced the Buddha, mentioning that the Buddha has three kinds of bodies. Sambhogakaya, Nirmanakaya, Dharmakaya. Three bodies. Kaya means body. The Buddha had three kinds of bodies, but he was not a busybody. Three bodies. Sambhogakaya, to preach, to advise, to guide and radiate compassion and kindness. He used Sambhogakaya, that particular body. Then for eating, talking, walking, sleeping, he used Nirmanakaya, ordinary human body. But after attaining Nirvana, Parinirvana, those two bodies disappear. But Dharmakaya, Dharma body, doctrinal body of the Buddha cannot die. That is why they say Buddha exists. Dharma, body of the Buddha, cannot die. So no one can say the Buddha is dead. The body that supported the Buddha to maintain this good quality, that body is dead, but not the Buddha. Body is not the Buddha. I think you can remember, I have told you, one of his disciples, Vakkali, every day come and sit down in front of the Buddha and watching, admiring the complexions and features, the serenity of the Buddha. So the one day, the Buddha asked Vakkali, what are you doing here? He said, when I look at your body, your serenity, your complexion, your features, gives me a lot of happiness. Then the Buddha said like this, Kinte Vakkali imina putikayena duggandhena sarire. Vakkali, by watching this dirty, filthy, impermanent physical body, what do you gain? You entertain your emotion. That's all. You never gain anything. You cannot see the Buddha here, watching this body. And then he says, Yo dhammang passati, so mang passati. One who sees the dharma taught by me, through this dharma you can see the real Buddha, not through my body. And now you can understand meaning. The dharmakaya exists. Because when you study the dharma, when you listen to the dharma, when you understand the dharma, you gain wonderful confidence and satisfaction in your mind. At that time, we create the real Buddha in our mind. That's the real Buddha. Without this kind of dirty physical body. In another place, Buddha has mentioned in Anguttara Nikaya, Sutra Pitaka. He said, whether the Buddhas appear or not, Dharma exists forever. But people have forgotten. Dharma exists, but people have forgotten. Dharma never disappears. From time to time, the Buddhas will appear to uncover, not to discover. There is nothing to discover. To uncover the hidden Dharma, to explain. Then they get back. This he has very clearly mentioned. Paturahosi magadhesu pubbe dhammo asuddho samalehi chintita. Gaining enlightenment, he said, this dharma that I understood existed long ago. But misinterpretation, wrong concept, wrong ideas, imagination completely eclipse this dharma. So, I had to uncover and show what this dharma is. Therefore, no one can say the Buddha is dead. Here. Then, without devotion, whatever we do in the name of religion, we won't be able to experience good result. We spend a lot of money. We work day and night. We study so many things. But there is no devotion in the mind. We won't get the real good result. So we had to develop this devotion. In 4-5 places, the Buddha mentioned this. Buddha went to tame that cannibal, a devil, who lived on human flesh, Alavaka. Alavaka wanted to fight with the Buddha. He was regarded as a devil. But the Buddha stood very firmly. Finally, Alavaka had to surrender. Then he asked one question. Alavaka. Kingsudha Vittang Purisassa Setta. What is the highest wealth for human being? Not so easy to answer. What is the highest wealth? Then the Buddha say, Saddhida Vittang Purisassa Settan. Confidence is the highest wealth for human being. If there is confidence, we can do anything. Whether it is married life or business or anything, whatever we do, if there is confidence, we never give up. All sort of hindrances, obstruction, difficulties, problems come. Yes, they are natural. But we have courage to face them because of that confidence. So when you come to religion, yes, the organizers had to face so many problems, criticism, accusation. They must know how to face them because they have confidence. Never give up. Especially those who are working for others gain more criticisms and disturbances than those who do not do anything for others. Example. Paratha Charyaya Phalanti Vriksha is a Sanskrit language. Say mango tree or rambutan tree bear fruits for the sake of others. The tree is not benefited, but tree produces the fruit. Just because of producing fruit for the sake of others, the poor tree had to suffer. People go and throw stone, break branches, shake the tree. But there are so many other trees never produce fruit, nobody wants to disturb. Remember, when we come forward to do some service to others, people criticize, accuse, blame. We must have confidence to face them. Paratha Charyaya Dhuanti Gava. Cows produce milk, but cows never drink milk. But so many others are benefited because of the milk. That cow produces milk for the sake of others. Paratha Charyaya Vahanti Nadya. Rivers carry water overflowing for the sake of others. Paratha Charyaya Satangi Jivana. The main purpose of our living in this world is to do some service to others. When we develop this confidence, we can do this very clearly. We never get fed up. In another place, Kasi Bharadwaja Sutra. A Brahmin, very stingy man, who has never given anything to anybody. He was working in his paddy field. Having seen this man, the Buddha came with his arms bowl and standing there during their Makan time. This man, having seen the Buddha, chased him away using dirty word, mundaka. Like today you say bota. Indians say motte. This is motte. You say bota. He used the word mundaka. Hey bota, get out. Then this man said, we are working here under hot sun. Without doing anything, how can you come here and ask some food to eat? Then the Buddha said, I also work. Then how can you work? We didn't see anything with you, only these arms both. Then Buddha says, Saddha bijang tapo utti panyame yuganangalang hiri isa manoyuttang sati me palapachanang. Saddha bijang tapo utti. Bija, biji. Now you use bija for cultivating paddy, but I use my confidence as biji. Saddha bijam, my confidence is my biji, my seed. That is how I developed my way of life. Therefore, you cannot condemn me that I do not do anything. Then, finally he surrendered. Another place, 7 kinds of wealth in the teachings of the Buddha. Saddhadhanang, Siladhanang, Hiri Uttampyang Dhanang, Sutadhanancha, Chagocha, Panyame, Sattamangana. 10 kinds of wealth we have. Among those 10, the first wealth is confidence. Saddhadana. So, when we develop this confidence at the beginning, we can carry on our work without facing some sort of frustration, disappointment, but with courage and understanding, we can carry on our work. And now you can understand why confidence is important for us. Now let us take your married life. If husband and wife both had confidence in each other, they can lead a very happy, peaceful, prosperous married life. They are willing to face any kind of troubles, problems, sicknesses, help each other. They don't feel uneasiness. So, whatever we do, confidence is more important at the beginning rather than knowledge. Knowledge we have to build up later, but start with confidence. That is the beginning. So, the majority here in this world practice rite and rituals and ceremonies according to their tradition, culture, way of life, climate in that particular country. That is why in different countries people practice this religion in different ways. So we say Chinese Buddhism, Korean Buddhism, Tibetan Buddhism, but Buddhism is Buddhism. But when they practice by using their own tradition and custom, we say Chinese Buddhism. Otherwise, that religion does not survive in that country. Must cooperate with the existing culture. When Chinese accepted Buddhism nearly 2000 years ago from India, the Buddha has introduced this religious way of life according to Indian way of life, practices. But the Chinese did not carry Indian way of life. That is why they have not chosen Hinduism, Jainism, Brahmanism. No one can practice this religion without following Indian tradition. But to practice Buddhism, it is not necessary. The Buddha has mentioned this very clearly. So the Chinese knew Buddhism is a universal religion, not an Indian religion. So they studied only Dharma, staying 3 years, 7 years in India, studied the languages and Dharma, and gone to China and introduced Dharma. Then the Chinese have incorporated Chinese culture into Buddhism, then practice according to Chinese culture. In other countries also, in Tibetan also do the same thing. Therefore, we should not try to show any superiority complex, we are higher than others. That is wrong. So, sometimes we Theravada Buddhist countries like Sri Lanka, Thailand, Burma try to say, oh, we are higher than others, we are more pure than others, but they also have a lot of weaknesses in their own countries. So, religion become very dry subject, not appealing to the public. But when combined with the culture, then become active, energetic, become a living religion, active religion. Take for instance, without doing anything, every day you come here, sit down and meditate and go back. Others never gain anything. They don't feel that there is such religion in this country. Yes, meditation is very important, but you must be active in certain other areas also. Otherwise, this cannot become a living religion. So, culture always promote religion, protect religion. Religion support the culture. Both must combine together. So, there are certain practices which are harmless, not immoral. Then we can accommodate such practices as cultural practices. Otherwise, we cannot protect Buddhism. Now, let us say younger generation here in this country or any other country. The way how others, Christians and others, organize their religious activities, these people so very appealing and being, and we feel very happy when we attend their services, function, but when we come to the temple we feel very dull, there is nothing. That is the weakness. We must know how to organize by inviting them and selecting certain practices, cultural practices to promote Buddhism. Otherwise religion cannot last long, slowly disappear. Then come to the other aspect. Many people are not interested in traditional, cultural practices, rite and rituals and worshipping, praying, offering. They are not interested. What they need? Knowledge. They want to study. That's all. They want to know the Four Noble Truths, Eight Noble Paths, Paticca Samuppada, what is karma, what is rebirth, how rebirth take place, what is nirvana. Study all these things. But they do not take part in this rite and ritual, etc. They go on developing this knowledge. They have wonderful knowledge. They learn whole Tripitaka. They can refer to any sutra, any book when they talk. But still their minds are unreliable. Remember this. They have wonderful knowledge, but the minds are unreliable. Because we have seen amongst those very highly intellectuals, not only Buddhists, some others also, certain human weaknesses in them, either anger, or jealousy or discrimination very strongly functioning in their mind. That is why the Buddha says, Yo pandito kodhano so nasadu. If a learned man always shows his or her anger, that person is no good. Their knowledge is useless. Always get angry for nothing. That kind of weaknesses remains in our mind, although we have studied the whole Tripitaka. Every word of the Buddha we study, but no development in the mind. Therefore, knowledge is important, and we have to divert this knowledge to eradicate, to uproot the evil thought from the mind. That is the second batch, intellectual side. Then come to the other group. Some others are interested only on meditation. They don't want to worship, they don't want to do offering, they don't want to chant, they don't want to do anything, only meditation. The trouble is, just now I mentioned, it is very, very important. If you get together whole day and night, meditate without doing anything, all the others run away. Those who are not interested in meditation, they run away from the temple. Therefore, you must know how to organize things in such a way to bring others also, to pave the way for them. So, by performing rite and rituals, by gaining academic knowledge, learning the Dharma, our minds are still very unreliable, still remain selfishness, still remain craving, still remain attachment, still doesn't know how to control anger. Therefore, meditation is important to control, to develop, to purify that mind. Book knowledge cannot do that. But all are important from the very beginning. For certain group, rite and rituals and ceremonies and worshipping and chanting and blessing. Another group, book knowledge and dharma knowledge, scientific knowledge. The other group, a spiritual development for the purifications of the mind. That is the last item according to the Buddha. Last item means 3 steps. Dana, Sila, Bhavana. The Buddha introduced. First, you have to start religious way of life from dana, not from meditation. What is dana? Dana does not mean offering food. You are not necessary to give anything. If you can reduce your craving, desire, that is dana. Without reducing this, whatever you do, you cannot go further. That is why dana started at the beginning. So after reducing this selfish craving, then come to the second item, sila. What is sila? Discipline, morals, ethics, noble way of life, respectable way. That is sila. Sila means discipline. Vidya dadati vinaya. Education gives discipline. That is the main purpose of education. But today, there is no discipline in education. This is a Latin word, educo, Latin word. In English, there is education. The original meaning is educo means development. Development of the mind. That is discipline. We introduce as sila. So when we develop discipline, vinayadreti patrata, because of our discipline, our behavior, people welcome us, respect us, support us, provide everything for us, because having seen our discipline, how we behave. Patratvam dhanamanneti. After that, they gain everything what they need. Started with discipline. That is the purpose of education. Discipline. So Buddha introduced this as sila. Then 3 ways: by the mind, the words, and the body. Action. There must be discipline in our mind. There must be discipline in our tongue. There must be discipline in our body. That means when we think, we must know what are the thoughts that appear in our mind. If they are bad thoughts, we must know how to suppress and control them. If they are good thoughts, then we must know how to cultivate and develop them. So awareness of the nature of our mind, then we can balance our mind. That is mental discipline. So when we talk, we must know what we talk, how to talk, art of talking, to whom we are talking, different technique. Again, I told you, we human beings are the only living beings who tell lies. Others do not know how to tell lies. See how clever we are? The reason is our intelligence. We know how to twist and turn our intelligence. Others do not know. Sometimes small children also do not know. They are innocent. That is why they say, when the telephone call comes, the child with the phone, then, can I speak to your father? Then the child says, Daddy, telephone call for you. Tell he I am not at home. Then the child says, Daddy says he is not at home. Innocent. They are not cunning. They don't know how to tell lies. So, religion is important for us to cultivate that mind that we twist and turn and misuse. When you talk, telling lies, harsh, wicked, vulgar word to hurt others' feeling, and slandering, gossiping, we waste our time for nothing. Therefore, we must know how to maintain discipline. When we talk to a religious man, we must know the language. When you talk to a ruler of a country or king, you must know the language. When you talk to a child, you must know the language. When you talk to a lady, you must know the language. That is called discipline. So, that is sila. Then come to bhavana, meditation. Without preparing the background in our mind, although we practice meditation, we cannot gain anything. Because the mind is very raw, not cultured. So, through these 2 channels, we prepare the ground in our mind, then easily we can meditate. This meditation is to gain purity in our mind, not for any other miraculous power, magic power, worldly power, to purify the mind, because always our craving, our anger, our jealousy, our ignorance persuade, force us to do bad things. Then we create bad karma. We can avoid from all these things if we know how to train the mind, purify the mind, then after that uproot all the evil. Then that is the end of the journey. End of the journey means we are going with repeated birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. But when you develop up to this Up to that extent, our mind, we landed in our final goal. That is called salvation, liberation, nirvana. For by doing all the other activities, we never get the chance to attain nirvana. Mental purity is the only way for us to attain final goal or nirvana. The merits, the good karma that we accumulate by performing religious activities also cannot bring us to nirvana. Yes, we accumulate a lot of merit, but our minds are not pure. So, this is the very practical way how to practice meditation, how to practice Buddhism without disturbing others. Those who meditate should not condemn others. Allow them to practice their way. One day they will come and join with you when understanding appears in their mind. If not, you should think, we are higher than others, we meditate, they do not meditate. That attitude is wrong. So, we have to cooperate with others, work with others by knowing their mentality, their understanding capacity, how much they can understand. Then we can handle these things very easily. I think enough, coming to 10 o'clock. I think we had to end our religious program with sharing of merits. You know that it is in daily Buddhist devotion that in Bigfield every Friday we do that. After talk, imina punya kammena upajjaya guruttara acari upakaracha mata pita piyama. That is sharing of merit, transference of merit, radiations of loving kindness, all are there. So if you can prepare some extra seat with English translation and distribute next week, so then I train you how to recite all together. After that, you also can recite without us. After performing any religious service, recite this. Invite all the others to share the merit, transfer the merit to our departed one, and appreciate our parents and teachers, and all the beautiful sayings are there. Is there anything in your mind to tell me what to talk next week? Explain any particular topic? If you can give the idea, then I can talk. Because some people want to know more details about certain things. Okay, thank you very much. A blessing. Sabbitiyo yajjantu sabbarogo vinassato mate bhavatvantarayo sukhi digayuko bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba buddhanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba dhammanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te bhavatu sabba mangalang rakhantu sabba devata sabba sanghanubhavena sada sotti bhavantu te. So good health and peace and happiness to all of you. So